This is the sound of your ride home with Dad after he caught you vaping. Awkward, isn't it? Most vapes contain seriously addictive levels of nicotine and disappointment. Know the real cost of vapes. Brought to you by the FDA.
How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 3.
Greetings, welcome. It's Eric Erickson here across the nation. The phone number is 877-973-7425. If you want to be on the program, did y'all see this on Saturday night? Maybe you didn't. I'm not a huge UFC watcher. A lot of my friends are. We watched the fights, the Sean Strickland fight. Sean Strickland had been had the belt, lost it, working his way back. And he had this moment after Donald Trump showed up at UFC on Saturday night.
President Trump, you're the man, bro. It is a damn travesty what they're doing to you. I'll be donating to you, my man. Let's get it done. Let's get it done. Congratulations.
That was Sean Strickland. He is a top UFC fighter, very popular. Donald Trump, the crowd went wild when he was there. Not a lot of booing for Donald Trump at the UFC fight, a lot of cheers for Donald Trump. It was a very interesting moment to watch that, particularly with the UFC fighter, as popular as he is, cheering on Donald Trump. It's something I think that you got to pay attention to, that the untested, uncharted, untracked polling that might be out there. Now, I want to spend a little time delving into one other issue we need to talk about. There's a lot of other stuff out there. I was gone all last week. This verdict happened. Really is big. It is historic. Whether you think it's right or not, it is historic, but there's an aspect of this that I think needs to be said. There are a lot of people wanting to know how to respond to what happened. I have to be honest with you. I very often cringe when people call in and they bring up Saul Alinsky. Because in my life, in knowing a lot of progressives and conservatives, we know way more about Saul Alinsky than they do. We have become convinced that Saul Alinsky explains everything they're doing. Most of them have never read him. There are certainly people who have, including Barack Obama, as a community organizer. Saul Alinsky wrote a book, Rules for Radicals, and it was about community organizing. It wasn't about overthrowing the system. It was about the ground level community organizing. How do you respond in union strikes and community protests, things like that. But people on the right take it as this is the Democrats' playbook. And I frankly think that we overplay both George Soros and Saul Alinsky in the same way the left overplays the National Rifle Association and the Koch brothers. You talk to people on the left and they are convinced the NRA and the Koch brothers controls everything on our side, pulls all the strings on our side, and is fundamentally responsible for everything our side does. Now, all of you right now are laughing when I say that, say, no, of course that's not true, except y'all do it with Saul Alinsky and George Soros. However, that being said, there is something that you do need to consider from Saul Alinsky. In Rules for Radicals, one of the things Alinsky said was that the action was not as important as the reaction. The action's not as important as the reaction. It's something that I think a lot of people miss when they try to navigate. How do you respond to this? What do you do? And I think you got to remember, I'm trying to get the exact words. Yeah, here it is. He talks about controlled conflict. It says the real action is in the enemy's reaction. What the left wants to do is to get you to overreact, to amp up your reaction so much so that it is disproportionate. There are people on the right who are calling for violence right now. There are people on the right calling for lock up every Democrat in your state, round them all up and lock them up and find something to charge them with. There are people in talk radio doing that. I want to make a bold suggestion for what our response should be to this. This is a political verdict. This is not a matter of justice. This was an investigate Donald Trump until you can find something to find him guilty with verdict. This is before a prosecutor who went out of his way to prosecute and a judge who gave money to a fund to stop Trump. This was not justice. And our response to this should be very simple. Win elections. Win elections. Make Donald Trump president of the United States. Go knock on doors. Go to your local county and say you want to be a poll worker and work the elections. If you're there, they're not going to be able to steal it. You go get trained by your local county on how to run an election. You go show up. You volunteer. Work the election. Go knock on doors. Instead of doing your Trump Marina flotilla boat parade, go knock on doors. Get people to vote. Go sign up voters, register them to vote, get absentee ballots out to them. Go to registered Republican voters, knock on their doors, and ask them if you can help them fill out their absentee ballot application. Go vote. Win elections. Something else you need to consider doing is stop siding with the fringe candidates. Carrie Lake is a trans winner. She's a loser who identifies as a winner. Someone asked me the other day, substantively, what's the difference between Donald Trump and Carrie Lake? And the answer, quite frankly, is Donald Trump has won Arizona. Carrie Lake is not. Carrie Lake doesn't have to be the Republican nominee. Carrie Lake's not going to win. Carrie Lake is extremely polarizing. Republicans, you want to take back the Senate? There's a sheriff out there running in the Republican Senate race. You want to win Arizona? You want to stop a radical progressive from winning that seat? Go with the sheriff who's running for election instead of Carrie Lake. Show the Arizona GOP that you want to find a serious candidate who Republicans can vote for, who Democrats will not be alienated by, who can win the election and get the Senate for the GOP. You got to find credible candidates. Carrie Lake is not a credible candidate. Stop picking clown car candidates who can't win elections. Go win elections. That is the response. The real action is in the enemy's reaction. The hope from the left is that we overreact. The hope from the left is that we go too far, that people do start doing what some of these clowns in talk radio are saying, round up every Democrat in your state and throw them in jail and investigate them till you find something, sue them all. Take to the streets, commit violence, burn down buildings, go burn down local Democratic Party headquarters. Those are the things people have literally been saying in the last 96 hours since this verdict came about. That's insane stuff. It's going to alienate you from the middle class. It's going to alienate you from independent voters. Instead, go win elections. Your response should be competency in elections. Go win elections, and that will be the justice that Donald Trump deserves. Go win elections. James Comey chose not to pursue charges against Hillary Clinton. He could have, but he didn't. The special prosecutor said Joe Biden should stand trial, but he's not mentally competent enough to do so. Win elections, and then make Joe Biden stand that trial, and make Hillary Clinton answer for the server issues. But you got to win elections to do it. You got to win elections. you can't get the justice you want on the sidelines. It's funny, I watch all these people say, why aren't Republicans doing this in Congress? Why aren't Republicans doing something? Because they have a 2-seat majority in the House and they don't control the Senate. Elections matter. You want to shake things up? You want to change things? Win elections. It really is that simple. You point out the partisanship of the DA. You point out the partisanship of the judge. You discredit the verdict in the eyes of the American public. You make it seem as political as it was, as you and I know it is. And then you win elections. You stop picking clown candidates like Carrie Lake, who alienate people more than she brings people in, and you pick good people who can win those elections. It's funny, I saw someone the other day say, well, Carrie Lake is outperforming some of these candidates picked by the Republicans in Washington for the Senate. Yeah, she is right now because she has 100% name ID in Arizona and she's losing. These guys have 25% name ID, but as their name ID goes up, they go up in the polls. Don't you know how to win elections? The irony is that the person who said this has lost twice running elections. Now I know why. Win elections. Pick competent candidates who can win the elections. You're not going to get everything from all of them. Some of these candidates are not going to be candidates that you would want in your state, but they're good fits for their state. They may be more moderate than you, but they have an R next to their name and are going to give the GOP a majority. And in that majority, the GOP can put the judges into the federal judiciary to block the lawfare of the left. Remember, Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski were in the Senate voting for Donald Trump judges, even if they didn't like Donald Trump. Would you rather Democrats be there so that none of those judges could be picked? Win elections. You can control the federal judiciary. And the left can try to discredit it all they want. They still won't be able to control the judges. Win elections. Win elections and have a field day diving into the testimony of Anthony Fauci today, who in his arrogance is largely admitting he imposed his will on Americans without science while telling them it was science. Win elections and you can dive into the FOIA requests and the way that the National Institutes of Health and Fauci's office itself tried to doctor emails and delete emails to avoid FOIA requests, and then you can prosecute them. Win elections and you can do that. Win elections, you can have your revenge. You can't have your revenge now. You don't control anything. And you picked a bunch of clown car candidates in 2022 who lost their elections, nearly costing the GOP the House. Pick better candidates in 2024 in these remaining primaries. Win the elections. Win elections. The left is hoping that we overplay our hand. The left is hoping that we do radical things. The left is hoping that the right turns violent in the streets. They're already amping up concerns about right-wing violence. It's going to be the right out there scaring people. It's going to be the right marching in the streets. It's going to be the right out there doing all sorts of terrible things, and those terrible things are going to show people finally it is the white nationalists of the GOP who are the danger to the country. Don't play into their hand. Go win elections instead. Go knock on doors. Go volunteer for campaigns. Go give money. Go be poll watchers for your party. Go be poll workers for your county. Volunteer your time. Don't sit on the couch. You sit on the couch, the other side's getting active. You get active too. And how you get active matters. You knock on doors. You get people their absentee ballots. You get people registered to vote. You give money to good candidates. You go work the polls for those candidates. You go work the polls as a poll worker for your local county. And if you're there working the polls for your local county, you can see the anomalies that come in, and you can report them, and you can prevent them by being a poll worker at your local precinct so they can't steal the election. Go work for Donald Trump. Knock on doors. Persuade people he's the right guy. Don't be crazy. Be normal. Be a good neighbor. Convince people he's the guy. Convince people that the cost of groceries will go down and your income will go up. Be persuasive, not crazy to people. Be willing to understand their criticisms of Donald Trump and not react hatefully to them, but acknowledge them and remind them, but did your life suck when he was president? Go win elections. That's the ultimate revenge on what the Democrats are doing. Win the election. Win the election, and then you can pursue Dr. Fauci, and you can pursue these claims against Joe Biden, and you can pursue these claims against Hillary Clinton, and you can question the FBI, and you have the power to stack the federal judiciary with good judges who will prevent the Democrats' lawfare. You can do all of these things if you win the election. You could do none of these things if you cost yourself the election. The Democrats' belief in this idea that your reaction is the action that matters expect you to overreact in a way that alienates you from the independent voters of America. Instead, win the election, and all the power can be yours, but you got to win the election.
I'm James McComb, reporting live from home in my bathrobe and slippers. Tonight, we're talking Dunkin' Polar Peppermint Coffee. Gene's here with the latest. Gene, do you copy?
The home with Dunkin' is where you want to be.
Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. The phone number 877-973-7425. Let me take Andrew here. Welcome to the show, Andrew. How are you?
Hey, Eric. Love the show. I think you got heads up on my question because I think you answered it, but I held long enough. I'm going to ask it anyway.
That's all right. Go for it.
So the question is, what would be better for the country, in your opinion, or stop some of this weaponization of what's been going on? Would it be that President Joe Biden pardons both Trump and Hunter after he gets convicted, or some AG in a Republican state indicts Joe for election interference when he sicked the FBI on all the social media to tell them that the laptop was a false story? I'll stop there.
Oh, okay. Great question. So first of all, in this particular case, Biden can't pardon Trump because it's a state crime. Kathy Hochul, the governor of New York, can. In fact, Dean Phillips, Democrat in the House, is saying that she should pardon Donald Trump, that she should do it expeditiously in order to allow the country to move on from where we've been. I don't see that anything like that is going to happen. And I don't think the Democrats want to pardon Donald Trump. I think they want to throw him in jail. It would be funny if Donald Trump got elected and pardoned Hunter Biden. That would be funny, but I don't think that's going to happen either. What I think the solution should be is, frankly, for the Democrats to admit that the prosecution in New York was a partisan witch hunt. And be honest about it and be dismissive of it so that Donald Trump can go through with his appeal and have the Democrats help him. But they're not going to do that either. I think that we really have crossed the Rubicon here. And I think that this is going to be profoundly disturbing for the Republic. There are people, myself included, who aren't fans of Donald Trump, who are deeply outraged by what happened in New York because of what it does to shatter legal, social, and civil norms. And there are a lot of Democrats who don't appreciate that. They so hate Donald Trump, want to get him by any means possible. They do not understand what they've done, and they won't until it's too late. And that's part of the problem here. Now, we've got a lot of other stuff we got to talk about, which we will get to when we come back. First, I got to tell you, Eden Pure, right now you can save $200 on 3 Eden Pure Thunderstorms. They are great air purifiers. I had one in my travel bag when we were in Vegas last week. We didn't need it, thank goodness, in the hotel room, but I always keep one because if you've ever been in a hotel room where someone's smoking or they're smoking next door and it gets in your room, the Eden Pure Thunderstorm wipes out those smoke odors. It wipes out the cigar odors if you're in your truck, or the frying odors and fishy odors in your kitchen. It wipes out the litter box odors, the pet odors, the wet dog odors, the musty odors of the basement. You can get 3 of them, one for upstairs, downstairs, your basement, your RV, your travel bag, wherever you need them. EdenPureDeals.com is the website. Eden, like the Garden of Eden, pure as the driven snow. EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is ERIC3, ERICK3. You'll get 3 Eden Pure Thunderstorms. You'll save $200. You can get them for your house. You can plug it up in your car with a USB cord or directly into the wall as you need it. I've used it in rental cars to wipe out smoky odors in rental cars and bad odors. You can use it too. EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code ERIC3, ERICK, the number 3, no space, ERIC3 at EdenPureDeals.com.
Blinds.com Cyber Monday Last Chance is happening now. Don't miss out on up to 45% off site-wide. A Blinds.com design expert can help you make the perfect selection on your schedule. We can handle everything from measure to your whole home installed for one low cost. With over 25 million windows covered, Blinds.com is the #1 online retailer of custom window coverings. Save up to 45% site-wide, plus a free professional measure right now at Blinds.com. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Welcome. It's Eric Erickson here. The phone number, 877-973-7425. I think we can move on from the fallout of the Trump verdict. There's other news out there. Tomorrow, the President of the United States intends to announce executive action to crack down on illegal border crossings just in time for the election. He's blaming Republicans for doing nothing. Is this not ironic? So this is from left-wing Axios. The order will rely on part of the U.S. code called 212F. It will enable border officials to quickly turn back migrants who illegally cross the border without a chance at asylum when border crossings meet a certain threshold. This asylum shutdown will occur once illegal border crossings reach an average of 2,500 a day, the AP first reported, and sources familiar confirmed to Axios. The restrictions are expected to go into effect immediately once the order is final. Government officials had discussed capping the number at 4,000 or 5,000 average crossings a day. The order mirrors a bipartisan border deal struck earlier this year, which Republicans killed at the direction of former President Trump. Notice their way of blaming Trump. The implementation of the order will heavily rely on cooperation from Mexico, which just held elections and will inaugurate the nation's first woman president. There's going to be challenged by the left in court, which is probably going to get the matter enjoined for some time before it goes into effect. So the Biden administration, in other words, has waited until now to do something it could have done 3 years ago, knowing it's then going to get challenged in court. So it's actually not going to happen. Meanwhile, the New York Post is reporting this. While the Biden administration is attempting to look like it's getting tough on the border, behind the scenes it's operating a program of mass amnesty for migrants, the Post can reveal. Data shows that since 2022, more than 350,000 asylum cases filed by migrants have been closed by the U.S. government if the applicants don't have a criminal record or are otherwise not deemed a threat to the country. This means that while the migrants are not granted or denied asylum, their cases are terminated without a decision on the merits. They are removed from the legal system and they no longer have to check in with authorities. This move allows them to legally, indefinitely roam the United States without fear of deportation, effectively letting them slip through the cracks. It's just mass amnesty under the guise of prosecutorial discretion, says Andrew Arthur, former immigration judge who works for the Center for Immigration Studies. You're basically allowing people who don't have a right to be in the United States to be here indefinitely. That's absurd. And yet, this is happening. Absolutely absurd. The Biden administration says now it's going to crack down on the border, which it could have done all along. They're waiting until June of an election year, knowing this is going to go to court, knowing a judge is going to pause the executive action to deal with it. So the Biden administration can say they're doing something, but yet again blame judges. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, when no one's looking, this came out this weekend while everyone was focused on the verdict. It turns out the Biden administration has been canceling amnesty appointments for illegal aliens, allowing them to stay in the country without having to show up, without having to report, without having to check in, so they could just roam the country with nothing. This is all part of the plan. It's expected, I guess. It's just another way they're never letting a crisis go to waste. And it's something I suspect that the public is going to be furious about when they learn. It's why this information came out over the weekend, I suspect. The data came out over the weekend. They were trying to bury it. You know, when I wrote on Friday about the Trump verdict, let me just go back because I wrote this on Friday morning as we were headed to the airport. My very last paragraph. Today is going to be one hell of a day for everyone to drop all the news they want buried, ignored, or covered up. Enterprising people will pay attention to the news that does not make the news because there's no better day to let slip the stuff you hope no one notices. That's what I wrote on Friday. Sure enough, they've let slip all this. In fact, the Biden administration as well has let slip that it wants a peace plan in the Middle East that the Israeli Knesset does not want to go along with. The war cabinet in Israel is saying, no, Biden wants this peace plan. He wants essentially to protect Hamas. The Israeli government has decided it is going to go into Rafah and it's going to exterminate Hamas. And the Biden administration trotted out what they declared would be a peace plan that has been rejected by the cabinet in Israel. And they're doubling down on it. The Biden administration doubling down on it. By the way, there's a story out, CNN. Hang on, let me just see. I got this unfortunate breaking news here. The Israeli military is beginning to tell families of 4 hostages being held in Gaza that they are no longer alive. These are all hostages that Hamas used in proof of life videos. The IDF says it's told the families of Haim Perry, Yoram Metzger, Miriam Cooper, and Nadav Popwell, who were abducted on October 7th, that they are no longer alive and their bodies are held by Hamas. The IDF said the decision to pronounce the 4 hostages dead was based on intelligence and was confirmed by the Ministry of Health Expert Committee in coordination with the Ministry of Religious Services and the Chief Rabbi of Israel. The circumstances of their deaths are under examination. Chief spokesperson for the IDF, Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari, said their loved ones were killed a few months ago during Hamas captivity in Gaza. Their bodies are still being kept by Hamas. We assessed the 4 of them were killed while together in the area of Khan Yunis during an operation there against Hamas. So it might actually be that in the Israeli operation, Hamas put them in the line of fire. But what's notable is that Hamas treated them as if they were alive and recorded videos of them claiming they were alive. They've been dead for months. And Joe Biden wants to preserve Hamas. In fact, the Biden administration is telling everyone who will listen that Hamas is in no position to take control of Gaza again, that Israel has weakened them enough. Really? This is an administration that left Americans behind in Afghanistan. This is an administration that got the Houthi rebels wrong. This is an administration that got the Taliban wrong. This is an administration that got Iran wrong. This is an administration that has continued to get China wrong. This is an administration that gets everything in foreign policy wrong, and they want us to believe them this time that there's no way Hamas is strong enough to take back power in Gaza. Really. This is what they want. These issues are going to matter more, I think, than Trump's conviction. I think the economy is going to matter more than Trump's conviction. I really do think that if people don't get relief from high grocery prices, it's going to matter. And grocery prices may be going up. There's this story. This is from the Wall Street Journal. OPEC Plus on Sunday agreed to extend all production curbs into next year, a deal that likely signals oil prices will remain elevated through the U.S. presidential election. The agreement comes on the same day the group's kingpin, Saudi Arabia, launched a giant sale of shares in the national oil champion that will yield billions to help fund the kingdom's economic transformation. The Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries and its allies, together known as OPEC Plus, agreed to keep collective curbs through next year. The group has long-standing official reductions of 3.66 million barrels a day. The new deal includes the United Arab Emirates securing another upgrade to its official production quota by 300,000 barrels a day. The UAE's new official quota will be gradually phased in starting in January and stand at 3.519 million barrels a day by September 2025. 8 top producers in the group also agreed to continue voluntary cuts separately into 2025, currently around 2.2 million barrels a day, according to OPEC Plus document. But the voluntary cuts, which include a production cut of 1 million barrels a day from top producer Saudi Arabia, will be only maintained at the same level for 3 months before becoming gradually eased through September next year. In other words, the Democrats are already blaming Donald Trump for this. The Democrats are saying this is Saudi Arabia wanting to help Donald Trump. Isn't it interesting how easily the partisan blame from the left and the partisan spin of the left can get into the press. Take the Sam Alito story, the appeal to heaven flag that was on display in San Francisco until last week. It suddenly became controversial, or more controversial is the language. It was always controversial, apparently, even though it wasn't. People in New England are kind of dumbfounded by this, given how popular the appeal to heaven flag is in New England. And yet the press treated it as a serious story because it was planted by the Democrats. The spin on OPEC is to blame Donald Trump and say this is to help Donald Trump, and it makes it into the Wall Street Journal and elsewhere as a way to say, they're in the tank for Donald Trump. Meanwhile, the press wants to ignore Judge Merchan's political contribution in New York. They want to claim that Alvin Bragg was a reluctant prosecutor. The spin doesn't work anymore. The American public have moved on from ABC, CBS, NBC, CNN, MSNBC, the New York Times. They get their news elsewhere. The news media still thinks they have a monopoly, that they can control what we think. Joe Biden could have protected the border. He could have secured it years ago when he first became president. Instead, he chose to undo all of the effective measures Donald Trump put into place, causing a border crisis. And now he's got to undo what he did and go back to what Donald Trump did, along with new issues. And yet he wants to claim that the Republicans are to blame and that he's having to act now. The crisis has been here the whole time, and everybody knows it. This doesn't change anything. And yet he wants to be able to spin it. He thinks the media can convince people. I don't think the media can convince people of as much anymore. Like, I think if Donald Trump picks a vice presidential candidate to be his running mate who people like, the media is going to work overtime to vilify him. You know it. The media is going to go gangbusters trying to vilify the person. I don't think it works as much anymore because the media doesn't have the monopoly control they once had. They can spin all this stuff to try to help Joe Biden. But I don't think at the end of the day it matters much anymore. I think their ratings are down, their subscribers are down, and people are realizing they've been being played. And I think that matters more now than ever before, that people do not trust the media because they've realized the media lies to them, and also the media does not like them. And I think that provides an opportunity for the GOP for counter-programming in ways that benefit Trump headed into the election. You know, one of the ways that the left wants to game the system is through the Electoral College and an interstate compact where they bind themselves to the popular vote. Although now they're starting to get second guesses as Donald Trump is ahead in the polling. They're going a little wobbly on this issue. Hillsdale College wants to know what you think about it and think about the presidential selection process in the country. You can take their survey at ericforhillsdale.com, ERICK, ericforhillsdale.com. It's a great way to learn about Hillsdale College as well, start a relationship with them. And, you know, normally Hillsdale College, they send you information to inform you. And instead, right now, they want you to inform them about what you think about the presidential selection process and the Electoral College and the proposal of this interstate compact. All you have to do is go to ericforhillsdale.com, ERICK, ericforhillsdale.com. You fill out the survey for Hillsdale College. You tell them what you think about the presidential selection survey, and then you begin a relationship with Hillsdale College. You're not going to pay anything. They want information from you, but they also want to tell you about Hillsdale College. It's part of their educational mission. Eric, ERICK, ericforhillsdale.com. Go sign up with Hillsdale College today. Take the presidential selection survey. Tell them what you think about the way we pick presidents in the United States.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon. The holidays are here, and you know what that means. It's time to get your friends and family the gifts they deserve. Take the stress out of shopping with Amazon's great deals and low prices on a huge range of items from toys to tech and much more. Whoever you're gifting for, Amazon has great prices on everything you need this holiday season. Shop Amazon for all your gifting needs.
Hello and welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. It is too late to call in, but that's okay. Reince Priebus was on this week. George Stephanopoulos was positively giddy about the conviction of Donald Trump. I mean, he had a hard time trying to cover it. All of them have. On MSNBC, they've been just orgasmic about the idea of Donald Trump being a convicted felon. Reince Priebus, though, was asked by Stephanopoulos about this. Listen,
for
Does it
president.
bother you that Donald Trump is a convicted felon?
Not on this case, it doesn't. Not on this case, it doesn't, because this is a case, just like your legal panel just debated, where smart lawyers without a political affiliation, are saying that this case is flawed in many regards, and an appeal is at least a doable appeal.
So it does bother
reversed.
you on, say, the January 6th case?
It could, yeah. But listen, I think that this case is unique. I think that when you have a case where the statute of limitations has run, and the only way you can revive the case is by hooking a federal crime, that's where the appeal is. That's the appeal.
Yeah. Look, Reince is right on this. This is a politicized case. And in fact, you're going to have the GOP make that case. This is why the Democrats, so over the weekend, as I began to point out the judges' donations to an anti-Trump fund at Act Blue, Democrats began furiously pushing back on me. Said it was only $35. It was only $30. What about Judge Kennedy? What about Sam Alito? Because they know it's a serious weakness. Every Republican who goes on television to talk about this case, and Donald Trump being a convicted felon, should say, you know, if you have a prosecutor who campaigns on convicting Trump and a judge who gave money to stop Trump and his legacy, you could be convicted too. And they'll deny it about Alvin Bragg. You should keep a copy of the New York Times story in the paper where Alvin Bragg was talking about it on the campaign trail and how he's careful about what he says and doesn't say as he wants to prosecute Donald Trump. Keep a copy of that story. The fact of the matter is, it was a political prosecution, and even a lot of people who dislike Donald Trump are willing to say this is a problem. There are a whole lot of people who may not care for Trump who recognize the norms being shattered by the left as they wish to pursue Donald Trump. It is a way to beat them, and you must win elections if you want to change things. I got a email from somebody saying, you just think you know everything, as in Mitch McConnell and Mike Johnson are going to save us. You have to win elections to do anything in this country. Mike Johnson has a 2-seat majority in the United States House of Representatives. There's very little he can do. Why? Because I bet this lawyer in particular, among others, who's writing to complain, supported a bunch of clown show candidates who lost elections. Pick good candidates and win elections. Mitch McConnell, he's stepping down as Senate Republican leader. You have the opportunity to pick a Senate Republican leader more aligned to you. Donald Trump wants Steve Daines to do it. I'm hoping Daines will do it. He'd be a great Senate Majority Leader. You got to win elections. You got to win elections. And you're not going to win elections with clown show candidates. Don't believe me? Look at 2022. The clown show candidates, the ones who were ready to hump Donald Trump's leg, they all went down in flames. Herschel Walker went down in flames. Dr. Oz went down in flames. Joe Kent went down in flames. What's his name in North Carolina went down in flames. All these people lost. Kerry Lake lost. Blake Masters lost. And renominating these people this time isn't a way to win an election. The voters have already rejected them. Pick better candidates and win elections, and then you can do what you want to do, and you can take on the left. You cannot take on the left from a minority position in Congress. You can't do it. You got to take the majority. And to take the majority, you need good candidates. Yes, it actually is that simple. The problem is, some people would rather pick candidates who strike their sense of grievance than can actually win in the district they're running. Picking people who can win the districts matters. That's how you win elections, and you win elections to beat the left. That should be our reaction to this conviction. Win the election with candidates who can win, and then take on the left from the majority with Donald Trump in the White House.